The U.S. is preparing for its biggest military challenge yet in Afghanistan, that of pulling out. The mission involves transporting tens of thousands of soldiers and all their hardware from the volatile region. As RT's Megan Lopez explains, the diplomatic effort would be just as demanding.
This is, quite frankly, in historical terms, the Berlin airlift in reverse.
Nothing has been done this complex by the military since World War II.
It has been described as the biggest military challenge in recent history, a logistical nightmare. At the end of the year, the 30,000 troops remaining in Afghanistan and almost all of the equipment used by the U.S. to execute its 13-year-long war will finally leave the country for good. $33 billion worth of equipment in all. A massive coordinated effort involving logistics, finances, diplomacy, security, and geography. In other words,
the FedEx model, if you will. You got to know where it's at, what it's doing, when it's moving, and what's going to happen to it when it gets somewhere.
And unlike Iraq,
Afghanistan is landlocked. It's remote. And it is surrounded on all sides by states that are effectively hostile to Afghanistan and, with very few exceptions, hostile to the United States and its forces.
Forcing the Pentagon to consider a number of routes through neighboring countries. First, by land.
The best, fastest, easiest, cheapest way to get out is to drive south from Afghanistan through Pakistan to the major port, Karachi, on the Indian Ocean.
Pakistan has proven to be essential in shipping equipment in and out of the region. However, relations between D.C. and Islamabad are fragile. A NATO airstrike that resulted in the deaths of 24 Pakistani soldiers in November 2011 caused the country to close the southern route entirely for 7 months in retaliation. Another exit strategy, by air.
The air routes are very safe.
Safest in terms of attacks, but also the most expensive. Now, according to the former head of the U.S. Transportation Command, General Duncan McNabb, airlifts cost 10 times more per pound than transport by land. And this route also has its share of risk.
We've already seen a 747 go down at Bagram, which, according to sources I've talked to, was probably from some load shifting on takeoff, which caused MRAPs to come off their platform or whatever, caused the aircraft to become unstable and fall.
One of the most tried and true methods of extracting equipment, the Northern Distribution Network. Over 3,000 miles of winding, curving railroads once used to move up to 75% of military supplies into Afghanistan.
We could have used some of those rail lines by moving up through Central Asia into these areas and then back across and ultimately into Europe. We can't right now because of the dispute that we have with Russia and Mr. Putin.
Highlighting how present and future international relations factor into the military drawdown.
This is not a military issue. This is really a diplomatic issue that sets the framework for the withdrawal through several countries, north, northwest, and the south. And they all need to come in play to make this happen.
Because the equipment coming back is used and often outdated, the question inevitably becomes, is it worth it? The U.S. does want some troops to stick around in Afghanistan to help in the training and counterinsurgency efforts, which would mean some equipment would stay too. But Afghan President Hamid Karzai said he would leave that decision to his successor. The next few months are critical in the legacy the U.S. leaves in Afghanistan. Will waste and scrapyards riddle the landscape? Or will the military be able to complete its mission in a time and cost-effective manner? All eyes are now on the Pentagon as it confronts the growing logistical and financial challenges on the road to retrograde. In Arlington, Virginia, Megan Lopez, RT.